With free agency less than 1 month away, I thought it would be fun to do an NHL over or under free agent edition. If you've been subscribed to the channel for a while, then you're probably familiar with this series. I usually make a few of these before every season starts, where you guys will give me a player name and a point total, and I'll pick out a bunch of your comments and go through and try and predict if that player will go over or under the given point total in the upcoming season. But today, we're obviously not doing point totals. We are doing cap hits for upcoming free agents, both UFAs and RFAs. As always, when it comes to these kinds of videos, huge shout out to everyone who participated. As of the time I'm recording this, there are almost 250 comments on the post, so shout out to you guys. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and start off with the first comment from Oilers Hub, who says over under Florida trio contracts Ekblad, Bennett, Marchand, 20 million. And also really appreciate the kind words and thank you for sticking around for so long. This is a really tough one because honestly, I could see 20 million being the exact number that the total AAV for these three guys' next contracts comes in at. I'm expecting Sam Bennett to get something in the range of 8 million per season. Could end up being a little bit more than that if he leaves Florida. I'm expecting Ekblad to get something in the range of 7 million per season, and Marchand, I think it's going to be around 5 million. If you add those up, 8, 7, and 5, that's 20 million exactly. I will say I think there is a chance that all three stay in Florida. Both Ekblad and Bennett have publicly expressed interest in wanting to stay in Florida beyond this season, and I do think the Panthers front office is going to make an effort to try and keep together the same team as best as they possibly can, especially if they win the Stanley Cup this year. In order for that to happen though, you'd have to think at least one or two of these guys would have to sign for below market value, which I honestly could see happening. So with that in mind, I am going to take the under here, but just barely. I feel like this one is probably going to end up being really close. Moving on now, a bit of a different one here from Tom W, who says over under 0.5 offer sheets not matched. So basically, will we see a single offer sheet not matched this offseason? And I'm going to take the over here. I think we do. That being said, I don't think it's going to be for one of the bigger name RFAs like Matthew Nyes, Gabe Vilardi, or JJ Peterka, because all of those players are on teams who have quite a bit of cap space. I feel like it's a lot more likely we see teams try and take advantage of teams that are really tight to the cap, like Vegas and Dallas, who have RFAs like Maverick Bourque and Nick Hague. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Enraged, who says Dante Fabbro over under 5 million. 26-year-old right D that had a great year. My only worry with him is how much of his success this season was because he was playing with Werenski, but if I recall correctly, he had good underlying defensive numbers on Nashville, so it's not a big concern. I'm definitely taking the over here. Like you said, Fabbro had a very good season for the Blue Jackets, and he's still just 26 years old, which is pretty young compared to a lot of the other UFAs. And oftentimes, right shot defensemen tend to get overpaid in unrestricted free agency. I mean, look at the type of contracts that guys like Ilya Lyubushkin and Matt Dumba signed last offseason, and the one that Justin Hall signed the year before that. So I'm expecting Fabbro to cash in this summer, especially if Aaron Ekblad ends up re-signing in Florida and is taken off of the market. That would leave Dante Fabbro as probably the best right shot defenseman available. The only other guys that I think would be in that conversation with him are Brent Burns and maybe Nick Perbix. But Perbix is more of a depth defenseman, whereas Dante Fabbro did well in top pairing minutes this season. And when it comes to Brent Burns, I mean, he's 40 years old. If he is going to play another season, I imagine it's just going to be another season in Carolina. This next comment comes from Gulf Legends, who says Marco Rossi over under 7.5 million AAV. So we have an RFA here, and I'm definitely taking the under. Based off of everything that's being reported, the main reason why his name has been thrown around in trade rumors so much is because Minnesota isn't willing to meet his contract demands, and it was reported that those demands are a 7-year deal in the range of 7 million per season. And it sounds like Minnesota isn't the only team that thinks that's too high. In a tweet last week, Anthony DeMarco of Daily Faceoff said, Marco Rossi, I don't think there is a fit with Philadelphia at this time. Speaking with sources, the Minnesota Wild would want Tyson Forster or one of Philly's late firsts. Philly has no interest in either. Rossi's contract demands are said to be too much for either team. So whether he ends up extending in Minnesota or he's traded, it does sound like his asking price is going to have to come down a little bit. I feel like he's probably going to end up signing for somewhere in the range of 6.5 million per season. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Nathan. We have another RFA here. Morgan Geekie over under 5.25 mil. I feel like he is interesting, where last season he played over that value, but throughout his career he hasn't played exactly to that level, so I find it interesting what he will get this season. I'm definitely going to take the over here. I think Morgan Geekie was far and away the Boston Bruins' second best forward this season behind David Pastrnak. He finished the season putting up a career-high 33 goals in 77 games. I can see why people have their concerns when it comes to Boston locking up Morgan Geekie to a big money long-term contract, because this was really only his first season as a legit top 6 contributor, but it's not like this came out of nowhere. Morgan Geekie is somebody who has gotten better every single season he's played in the NHL. This is a guy who still had 17 goals with the Bruins last season in more of a middle 6 role, where his most consistent line mates throughout the season were Trent Frederick and James Van Riemsdyk, and then this season he gets an opportunity to play consistent top 6 minutes with the Bruins' best forward, and he never looked back. So I definitely don't think his production from this season was a fluke. I do think he's going to be able to be a consistent 25 plus goal, 50 plus point player for the Bruins, which maybe isn't the kind of player you lock up to a 7 or 8 year deal, but I could definitely see him getting something in the range of 4 years, between $5.5 to $6 million per season. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Charlie, who says Brock Boeser over under 8.25 million. I'm definitely going to go ahead and take the under here. Brock Boeser has been a very consistent 20 to 25 goal, 50-ish point player throughout his career, with the exception of the 2023-24 season where he exploded for a career high 40 goals and 73 points. I feel like because Boeser is only one season removed from putting up those career highs, that people tend to overvalue him a little bit, but that season was definitely an outlier when you look at the rest of his career. The most I could see him getting is between 7 and 7.5 million per season. It's not like he's the kind of player who's going to drive his own line. He's more of a finisher, a power play specialist. I feel like anything over 8 million per season, especially on a long-term deal, would be a bit of an overpay for Boeser. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from LBH Ram, who says Nikolaj Ehlers over under 7 million. Lots of people are saying 8 or 8.5, but I personally think no more than 7.5. 7 by 7 would be most reasonable. I think this all depends on if he leaves Winnipeg or not. If he re-signs in Winnipeg and he gets that 8th year on his deal, I could see it coming in at exactly 7 million per season. But if he ends up leaving Winnipeg, which is kind of the way I'm leaning right now, I definitely think he ends up signing for more than 7 million a season. So I'm going to take the over here. I honestly think there is a pretty good chance he ends up signing for what a lot of other people are saying he's going to sign for, in that range between 8 and 8.5 million. Next up, this comment comes from Eden is Burning, who says Mitch Marner over or under 13 million. I am definitely taking the over here. Say what you want about Marner's playoff performances throughout his career, but at the end of the day, this is a 100-point top-line winger who has a strong 200-foot game, set to hit the open market in a summer where teams already have a ton of cap space and are going to have even more in the next few years with the cap on the rise. I think teams that are trying to get over the hump in the playoffs and maybe lack a bit of star power at the top of their lineup, like LA and Carolina, are going to throw a lot of money at Mitch Marner. I'm also expecting teams that are trying to take that next step and get into the playoffs next season, like Utah and Detroit, to throw a lot of money at him. And I could also see teams like Chicago and San Jose trying to sign Marner, teams that are trying to climb their way out of the basement of the NHL and start to come out of their rebuilds. This could turn out to be an all-out bidding war, which could lead to Mitch Marner signing for something a lot closer to 14 million per season. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Yelling, who says Bouchard over under 10.5 million. I'm going to take the under here, but not by much. I could see him signing for exactly 10 million per season. He is kind of a polarizing player, and honestly, I feel like at this point he's actually became a little bit underrated because of how much he gets hated on for, some of the defensive lapses he may have here and there. But Bouchard is legitimately one of the best defensemen in the entire NHL, and he's another player on the Oilers like McDavid and Draisaitl who seems to elevate their game come playoff time. I think if the Oilers can get Bouchard signed for anything less than 10.5 million per season on a long-term deal, it's a contract that will age very well for them. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Mr. Bloopy, who says Will Cuylle over under 3.75 million. I am definitely taking the over here. Cuylle really was one of the few bright spots in the New York Rangers season. He put up career highs across the board with 20 goals and 45 points. He's strong defensively, good on the penalty kill, and he's a great forechecker. He's one of those versatile players that I honestly think you could slot in anywhere in the lineup and you know what you're going to get. He's going to be able to contribute, and he's still only 23 years old, so whether it ends up being a bridge deal or a longer-term deal, I think either one, it's still going to come in at a number higher than 3.75 million per season. Next up, this comment comes from Baparo, who says Brent Burns over under 4 mil. Assuming he is going to play another season, I'm going to take the under here, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. I could see him re-signing in Carolina on a one-year deal for something in the range of $2 to $3 million per season. It's pretty crazy that Brent Burns is 40 years old and he's still playing at such a high level. He honestly feels like one of those guys that could probably play in the NHL until he's in his mid-40s. This next comment comes from Dogbone and Robot Vids, who says, John Tavares over under 5.2 mil. This is kind of a tough one. I feel like it all depends on what the length of the contract is going to look like. Like, let's say if he signs, a 6-year deal, I could see it being somewhere in the range of $3.5 million per season. But if it's a shorter term deal in the range of 3 to 4 years, then I think the AAV is going to be higher than 5.2 million. And I think that's probably more realistic. So I am going to take the over here. I know Leafs fans want him to take a big hometown discount and sign for, $3 million per season on a 3-year deal or something like that. But anyone expecting that to happen, I mean, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. At the end of the day, this is still a guy who almost scored 40 goals this past season and put up 74 points. He is still a very effective player. If I had to make an exact prediction, I'm going to say he ends up signing a contract similar to the one Claude Giroux signed with Ottawa in free agency a few years ago. 3 years in the range of $6 and $6.5 million. Moving on now to the next comment. This one comes from Luke, who says, Jake Allen, $3 million, might be the best goalie in free agency this summer, so a team could give him a good amount of money. This is definitely a very weak free agency class when it comes to goalies. I am going to take the over here, but probably not by a whole lot. He is 34 years old, so I could see him getting something like a 2-year deal in the range of $3 and $4 million per season, really anywhere in between. And now finally, finishing up the video with a comment from Eric Johnson, who says, Pius Suter, the Swiss Army knife, over under $4 million per year after putting up his best numbers yet, 25 goals and 46 points. 23 of his 25 goals came at even strength or being shorthanded. This one is a no-brainer for me. I'm definitely taking the over. Pius Suter was phenomenal for Vancouver this season, obviously career highs across the board offensively, like you said, but he was legitimately one of the better defensive centermen in the entire league too. Very effective on the penalty kill. Center is also another position similar to right shot defenseman where I feel like they tend to get overpaid a little bit in free agency. So I think Pius Suter, coming off of the season he just had, clears $4 million a season pretty easily on his next deal. I think any contending team looking to shore up their number 3 center position should be showing interest in him. So that is going to wrap up this free agents edition of NHL Over or Under. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, huge shout out to everyone who participated and left a comment on the post. You all make these interactive videos so much fun for me to make. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave a like. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help out the videos a ton. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this all year round, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all again soon.